Call the June 11th, 2018 Personnel and Finance meeting to order. First up, I need a motion to support and approve the agenda as presented. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Next up, we have public comment. Any public comment? We have no public to comment today. Move on to item 4. This will be our minutes. I need a motion to approve. Motion to support and approve the minutes as presented. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Move on to 4B, facilities. Welcome, Rick. This will be concerning the HVAC system at Youth Center.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. In front of you, you have a request to approve the proposal from Ajax Heating and Air Conditioning to replace the makeup air and condensing unit at the Youth Center.
Questions, concerns? Give me a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. And I'm glad to see a local getting the contract.
Thank you, sir.
Good job. Next up, item 4C will be the Health Department. Good morning.
Good morning, all. We come before the Personnel and Finance Committee this morning to request approving a reclassification of our WIC Coordinator position at the Health Department. This would be an increase from grade level L to grade level M. In the background section of the staff report, we've talked about how large a program this is, and to some extent, I think it kind of reflects some of the complexity that the WIC Coordinator functions under within the Health Department. So we're requesting a reclassification. We've done a thorough review of the job analysis questionnaire, the job description. The position has been re-point factored per our request through the HR department, and it did actually come out point factor wise higher than the 3 other coordinator positions within the health department. And it does also supervise at least 1 registered nurse position at a grade level L. And so that in itself, I think, kind of justifies our asking for increase in this position from L to M. It's been unusual, but standard procedure as well for those who supervise, say, an L to be at an M level. That's consistent with the rest of our coordinator positions. The complexity of the position has also increased a bit. As you probably remember and are aware, we are also a user in the community of the electronic medical record. The electronic medical record has been incorporated into the WIC program as well. That's added some additional complexity to the work that the person does. And we also have expanded the WIC program to be on site at the Center for Family Health. That was done in April of this year. So I think collectively, all these things combined, we think it's justified for the position to go from L to M. And we did include also a fiscal analysis of the impact of this within our budget. In the current fiscal year, about a 15-week difference remains of about $2,196. And also then on a 52-week annual basis going forward, the cost would be about $7,600 a year. We do have the funding within our budget in the WIC program to support this change. And I would ask for your approval, and I'll answer any questions anybody has.
Questions, concerns? If not, I need a motion and support. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4D, with the Treasurer's report. Welcome, Madam Treasurer.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, here's the mouse. All right, so you have before you, oh, there we go, the quarterly report from my office, and I'm just going to kind of run down some of the bullet points, and then obviously we'll open it up for questions that you may have that may not be specifically addressed on this report. So it had been a couple of meetings since I've had an opportunity to talk about where we are with the investment portfolio. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about that. This is as of April, end of April, just to show you where any of the surplus funds is being invested for the county. So you'll see we've got $4.5 million in CDs currently in the portfolio. For our money market, we've got a lot of money that's being liquid right now. It is important to note that even though this seems like a high dollar amount, May is when I pay out to all of the units for the delinquent taxes that come over to the county. So that's usually a $7 million bill. So that money that's sitting liquid there will be used for paying out all the taxing jurisdictions. So you will see next month that that will be decreased because of that amount and because of the buyout of the taxes that I do every year. And then the treasuries and agencies we're holding at just over $34 million, so a total for the portfolio is $64.8. Just some highlights on where we are with revenue to date. Still quite early in the year, so we're only at just over $1 million in delinquent taxes. You know that the taxes don't start coming in really till mid-September, so we kind of hold steady with a really kind of a small balance each month till we hit that point in the year, and then we get all of the taxing dollars in around that time. Dog licenses were at 22,000 and passports just over 5,000. Here's kind of the diversification showing you the percentage of the holdings in the portfolio, and then if you're so inclined to look at this historical comparison, this shows 2009 current. The spike that you'll see here is the bonding that the county has done over the years. So you'll see there's a bright purple bar here for 2018. That's the result of some bonding dollars that came in. So that's why that spike is as high as it is. It's extra dollars that are coming into the county as a result of bonding that we've done. Here's the breakdown that shows you all the short-term holdings, the banks that I'm currently working with. There's where the money market accounts are here, the different accounts that we're holding monies in, and then the long-term fixed that we have out there. And it's got the maturity dates and the percentages, the interest rates, so there's some good detail there if you're so interested. Every month I allocate interest to those accounts that are in the pooled account. This kind of really ugly graph shows that, but it's a kind of a deep dive into which each department has dollar-wise and the amount of interest that's being allocated. So just to show you that activity is still ongoing as required by law. We also report out those that are unallocated, those accounts for whatever reason the county does not allocate. That's what this spreadsheet shows. These aren't anything new. You see these every month, but I just wanted to take a minute to kind of go through them. We haven't refreshed and talked about it in a while. So this is the new map as of May. This is the new forfeitures that have come through the cycle. What is important to note is that it was 1,634 parcels at the beginning of May, which is down about, 127 parcels, I think, as compared to a year ago last year, which is good news. Means our numbers are going down. Anytime we see a decrease, that's good news. And then this is just the breakdown by township, if you're so inclined for that information. So then I want to talk about this next report. Every June, I, by law, am required to report what's called a land sale proceeds report, according to MCL 211.78M. So I wanted to include that in this packet and take a minute to talk about it. So you've seen this from me every June, and what this basically talks about is when we go to sell tax foreclosed properties and the auction proceeds, quote unquote, that we do get or don't get each year, and you see it goes all the way back to 2002, and this indicates the dollars from 2017 current. So you see that we were at a negative balance, and we have been at a negative balance for the past 3 years. 2015, as of note, was a pretty high balance because of the Michener properties, the properties on Mechanic Street. So you'll see that that was just about $1.3 million for those parcels. So that's having a pretty hefty impact on those figures, those numbers for 2015. Other than that, it looks pretty normal, so to speak, with regard to that. Basically, what this last line here says, available for transfer for general fund. That is monies that are available once we go and do all of the auctions and pay off any of the residual dollars that were not paid at previous auctions. That's showing a negative 1.8. So there's really not any extra dollars or surplus dollars or excess proceeds available to transfer to the general fund. So are there any questions about this report? I did mention that it's a cash basis report, so it's designed to reflect the cash available for general purposes for the county. It's a cumulative report, as you see, for sales of the tax foreclosed properties, the purchase of tax foreclosed properties from the delinquent tax revolving fund, which is the 616 account, and the amount of money is owed to other funds in the land cost of inventory. So all of those figures are in this report. Hopefully I've explained it well. If not, I'm always available to answer questions about it. Moving on then, I wanted to spend a minute, and I could not figure out how to put this on the side, so I apologize for that. It's kind of on an angle there, but I wanted to talk about those parcels that we did foreclose on as of April 2nd this year. The good news is the numbers were down. We foreclosed on 137 parcels this year, as compared to last year we were at 153. You'll see here the breakdown by township. I think that's important for you to know, so that if you can go back to your constituents and have any questions, it kind of breaks down your area, your zones, your townships to kind of highlight what's going on. Again, on the map, anything that's in red is designated with an I. That means improved. That means a structure, a house, could be a garage, but anything that's improved is indicated with an I there. So for example, if you look in the top corner there on Springport, we foreclosed on one parcel, and that parcel had either a house or a structure on it. So that's how you read this map. In the city, another good note is the total amount of parcels was less. We only foreclosed on 67 parcels, which I think is good news as well. 40 of those were improved and 27 were vacant lots. So at this point in time, that's kind of a report that I had to highlight what's going on, but obviously if you've got questions, I would be happy to entertain them.
Any questions, board? Thank you. Very
Thank
clear
you for your
report.
time.
We appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, next up we are at item 4E, the IT department, going to be making a request. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I come here this morning not asking for money, so that's hopefully a good start. I'm offering a solution for us to possibly save up to 30% or more in savings through telecom savings identified through Abuelita. I think you guys have all received all of the paperwork. I think it's a great opportunity for us to actually save money and identify redundancies that we do not need in our infrastructure.
Questions, board? So if I read this correctly, our cost will be zero. The Appalachia will find the savings, they get a portion of the savings?
Correct. The costs will be out of the savings, so we will save, they will take 50% of what the savings are. So we will save 50 and pay the 50% to them through 8.3 and a quarter over the 3 years' time.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
If there are no questions, we're in need of a motion and support.
I would move to approve the master service agreement with Abuelita.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. You've got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Thanks. Next up, item 4F, Equalization Department. Welcome, Ruth.
Good morning. The motion that I have is approval of a contract to provide assessing services for Tompkins Township and the addition of one full-time equivalent assessing specialist to staff assessing duties and all necessary budget adjustments. I think you guys all know the background. We started providing services for Parma Township in 2011. In 2013, Norval Township made a request, and we started providing assessing services for them. So at that time in 13, we actually hired an assessing specialist and started looking at a more designated assessing staff at that point. In 2016, we lost our EQ coordinator, and instead of hiring another coordinator or administrative person, we decided to hire another tech, which we badly needed at the time. We took the fund balance, concerns of the county to heart, and we hired a tech instead of administrative support. Historically, back in the early 2000s, we had 9 people on staff in equalization, for just equalization. This would put us back up to that level with doing equalization and providing assessing services for 3 units of government. Economic activity is increasing. We're up about 20 to 25% over the past 6 years in the amount of sales, data that needs to be analyzed. Assessing administration functions are being handled currently by our EQ and assessing coordinator and myself. And so we're kind of looking at a restoration of the admin capacity in the department as well. As far as, there's a graph in here on parcel maintenance and study activity, and I want to highlight the green and the purple. These are the parcels visited and the appraisals and sales, and those are up significantly over the last few years. Tompkins Township is also in the middle of a reappraisal right now. So they've had someone working with them in an assessing capacity. John Tuttle, the supervisor, has been the assessor of record out there. He said someone working with him, they did not quite complete the job and have moved on. So he approached us a short time ago and asked if we would be willing to take on assessing services for Tompkins as well. There are about 500 parcels out there that need to be finished in this reappraisal. So the first year will take quite a bit more time in this unit than the annual requirement of services. Hiring one full-time equivalent assessing specialist will allow us the additional time that first year. And it will also give us the time to train that person, because we want to, the one thing that we kind of, one of our priorities is to assure consistency and uniformity in assessing practices. So we need to make sure that the new person coming on is handling things the way that we do in equalization. So it's going to be, this first year will be, or first half a year, I should say, would be quite a bit of training and quite a bit of working in the database. And we also have the new cost manual, which of course doesn't smooth the process out anymore. We have also had requests from 2 other units to provide them proposals. So we're kind of at that growth phase. We're kind of at that, transitional phase again. When the request was made, we didn't have an assessing specialist position in the AFSCME contract because we didn't have anyone in the position at the time, although it was an established job description. And so we have gone to AFSCME with HR. They have looked it over and approved it as added into the contract. As far as a strategic analysis, of course, you know, it's part of your strategy to collaborate, cooperate with local units of government. As far as equalization goes, the increased capacity and the redistribution of the workload, I think will reestablish a good balance of administrative and assessing functions. This person that we would hire as a full-time would take on a good deal of the assessing function in 2019, at least 2 of the 3 units. Right now, we have about $88,450 coming in. With this contract, we would have $88,450 coming in from assessing contracts. This person's cost is about $66,000. We will still, obviously, I will be handling some of the assessing function, so will our EQ coordinator, but this will create a little bit more administrative capacity as well for us to kind of deal with these challenges that are coming along. Timing is, you know, they've requested, they wanted obviously us to take over in June. I told them July 1st would be the first that we could do it. So that is the request before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Tompkins?
How does this relate to what you told us, what's coming out of the Senate with those bills for Master Assessor and
Right.
areas and so on?
Well, this position, I'm specifying an advanced level assessor, or at least someone who is on their way there, that wants to get their advanced level and that is working toward that. I would like to get an advanced level assessor in here. We don't know where that's going to end up at the end of the year, but chances are there could be more units that would choose to come to the county rather than trying to, you know, develop these assessing districts and whatnot. I don't know how that will pan out. Like I said, I have had 2 other requests already, and that was pretty much in direct response to this. So we're just trying to set ourselves up for success and give ourselves the capacity that we need to make those transitions and, you know, face whatever it is that comes down the pike.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rice?
Thank you, Chair. Ruth, following what Commissioner Tompkins just said, when you reported on this at the Supervisor Association, obviously they were not real happy with it, which for many of us, we can understand that. So as we move forward, there's a possibility that your department could be doing more and more for the townships in terms of assessing. When you do that and you put the contracts together, are you looking to just break even?
Yes.
To make sure that we have enough people to do the job, but just to break even, obviously not being the negative, but at least break even. You're not looking to make extra money.
No, and I have I've been very careful to make sure it's a pretty tight, pretty lean contract. And it just depends on the unit. And how I go about that is to look at what personnel I'm going to need to adequately provide assessment administration for that unit. So in some units that are larger and more complex, the cost per parcel average might be higher than a small unit, you know, that is pretty simple, pretty rural residential. So, yeah, we're looking just to cover our costs.
All right, very good, thank you.
Further questions? Mercy?
I would move to approve or send this contract to the full board.
Support. Okay, we have motion support. We have another question, Commissioner.
I'm just going to make a comment that we're relocating Ruth's department. Her new office up on 16 is just almost ready to move into.
Yep.
There is adequate space to add 1 or 2 more positions up there, right?
2 with a stretch, yep.
2. So, yeah, because it is anticipated, at least on our end, that if the state makes the moves we're thinking, that we'll need another 2 bodies. So, FYI.
Yeah.
I have a question before we vote.
Sure.
Are you at liberty?
Yeah, I don't think there's any secret. Pulaski and Concord. Their assessor called shortly after this was proposed and said that both of the supervisors would like me to provide a quote on services because she doesn't plan on getting her advanced level. Now, who knows where we end up? If they do grandfather in MCAOs, maybe things stay just as they are, and those two units and another unit get together and form an assessing district. I don't know, but they did make a request.
And how much would it cost Pulaski and Concord to do this?
I'd have to run up those numbers. I haven't done it yet, in all honesty.
Ballpark figure?
Well, I can't. I can send you that information once I look at it, but I just haven't even looked at it to kind of, they're rural, they would be at our lower cost end, and it just depends on how many parcels they have in those units, and I don't know those, that off the top of my head.
What's the average assessor rate?
That just depends. It does. I mean, MCAOs, yeah, I'm not sure, in all honesty. I am not sure what, especially, it depends on whether they're an employee, whether they're a contract, whether, I think the last contract I saw was for Spring Arbor, and that was somewhere around $55,000 for 3 days or something like that. Yeah, I'm just not sure. Yep, and I'm not really privy to that information.
Well, since everybody wants to know all these numbers from me off the top of your head, is there any special assessing for the 700 marijuana facilities in Leone?
It's going to be a challenge this year. I mean, I will give you a for instance. We just had a little bit of acreage sell in the back. It's not even on a road front or whatever. It was not a lot of acres for $500,000. That's much higher than our commercial rates. And so our challenge is, how do we use that data? It is a sale. We need to look at it. We need to analyze. How do we use that data in our commercial land values? And I think we're going to probably have to segregate that out, in all honesty.
All right, thank you. Well, a treasurer like this, an individual had, at one of the tax foreclosure auctions, purchased 8 acres of property in Leone Township for a little over $5,000, the back taxes and such, and they just sold it for $240,000. So pretty good return on investment.
Return on investment, yep. And there are a lot of them. Any other questions?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. We're presenting the financial statements for the month of April. Therefore, we are 1/3 of the way through the fiscal year, so our benchmark is 33.3%. Our year-to-date expenditures are slightly below that, 32.4%. However, that's a tad above the 3-year average of 32.1%. On the revenue side, the revenue is below the 3-year average, being at 15.3%. And again, as I explain again, is that the monthly financials are on a cash basis, so this is, again, it's dependent upon what revenue has been received year-to-date. And again, included in the report, on the last page, on page 6 of the report, I'm also including a summary of the activity of the investments resulting from the pension bonds. And again, to repeat, the money was put to work in January. January was a good month, and February not so much because of the adjustment in the market. Since then, there's been a slight recovery, and it's holding its own at this point. So I just point that out again each month in terms of the Commissioner's oversight of those funds, since the county is on the hook for the pension bonds. The county administrator requested that I spend a few moments, very few moments, going over the latest actuarial report because, again, the whole reason for the pension bonds was to even out our cost and to provide for cost savings in the last, at least in the next couple of years. So the results that were presented to the pension board back in May, basically the bottom line is it's doing what we intended to do, in a sense that the annual required contribution is reduced from, and this includes JC Dot, from $6.5 million down to just a little over $1 million. Of course, offsetting that will be the debt service costs, which approach $5 million. So for the fiscal years of 18 and 19, we are realizing the savings that we anticipated when we discussed the 18 budget and when we also discussed the 19. So happy to answer any questions about that.
One, so I understand it clearly. We would have paid $6.5 million.
Yes.
We're paying $5 million, so we saved $1.5 million?
Approximately, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, again, I always have to say this, is that there's no guarantee beyond 2019 that we'll have that savings. Again, it's dependent upon the rate of return of the assets.
Well, what's the rate of return this year? Do you know?
I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Okay.
17 was good, but I don't know what it is. Okay, sorry.
Report.
Thank you.
Next up, 4H, Administrator Controller, a policy update on our cell phone policy.
Read it, I assume, and look at it. The really only, what I consider significant change is the fact that we are moving to where we have some situations where it's not in our best interest to provide a phone. We believe it's in the best interest to provide a subsidy for an existing phone, especially in our summer help and things like that, where we're looking at a $25, what are we calling that? Stipend, thank you. Any questions or concerns?
Okay, we have motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Moving forward to 5A, we have the claims to pay.
Move to pay the claims.
Do we have support? We have motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. We had no other minutes, and finance is the only report we have scheduled for July. We move on to second phase of public comment. Any public comment? No public comment. Committee member comment. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.